Welcome back to another Asphalt Legends video. Today I finally managed to reach Legend League, and in this video you're going to see some of the most epic battles that I pursued in order to get all the way to top 500. Yes, that's right. In this video you're going to see me get to top 500 in the world in the last season of Legend League. Of course there is a new season starting today, but I managed to reach top 500 and I had some really insane battles between the CC850 that I just recently got and a bunch of other insane S-Class cars. You're going to see a lot of close calls and awesome battles, some cool tricks, and of course some mess ups from me because, well, that's just how it is sometimes. But before we get into the video, I do want to point you guys into the description down below where you can find links to my social media channels, including my Instagram if you want to see some cool car photography, and of course my Discord server if you want to join and hang out with the cool community. Alright, so today's video is going to be about Legend League, the current multiplayer series, and a bunch of other things. Firstly though, this background footage is amazing. I was so glad I finally reached Legend League because it has been a little bit of a slog or not in order to get into Legend League these past couple of seasons, because the reset has not been only to Platinum League. I've been getting put back to Gold League, and simply put, I didn't have a lot of time to get all the way to Legend League, but this time around I had a little bit of extra hours on my end, and so I decided, you know what, screw it, let's see how good the CC850 is in actual Legend League, because where I tested it for my multiplayer video was just in MP2, where you can use any car about at that rank or whatever the free try car is, so I got some good footage there, but not really a good understanding of where this car is in terms of the actual meta in Legend League. So you'll see that in today's video, of course, going up against mainly the Arish Imperiums. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit in this video, but before I do get into the whole balance thing, I want to talk a little bit about strategy for Legend League. Now, if you do get the rare opportunity to get into Legend League, there are a couple of things you should know. And the first thing you're going to notice throughout this video is that I think I only get first place like once or twice throughout the entire journey in Legend League, and that's kind of intentional. Obviously, if I'm going to get first place, I'm going to grab it. However, with that being said, once you get into Legend League, the most important thing is to reach podium position. So top 3 at least, of course, if there are 6 players, just enough to where you gain elo and not necessarily get reset another 10 points. In my opinion, that's sort of been the meta throughout getting into Legend League, at least of course because I don't have something like the Arish or the Devil quite yet. It just seems to be play it a little bit more safe compared to more aggressive and stunt-based driving to make sure I at least get podium position, because in especially this season, because there was collisions, there are a lot of collisions between cars. You're going to get thrown off the track so many times, you're going to get bumped out of the way from the path that you really want to go down. So in my opinion, I think it's best to play it a little more safe compared to some of the other leagues, especially like if you're just all the way at Gold League, you might as well just risk it so you can get some of those points. But this time around, it's really important to play it a little more safe just so that you can finish podium. Now, of course, if you see a gap, you gotta go for it. If you're coming last place, you have to make sure that if you do have an opportunity to catch up, sometimes you have to pull out the crazy maneuvers, some of which you'll see in this video. But it just seemed like when I started to shift my mentality more towards getting at least podium position so I could gain those elo points, it seemed that I was getting a little more consistent with my finishes. With that being said, there were some almost impossible, insurmountable objects within my path, and that was the Arish Imperium. Now, when I reviewed the car or just took a look at it in the Drive Syndicate and the Free Try series, I was really impressed by its performance. But that was outside of the context of real multiplayer, right? So I didn't really get an opportunity to see how it actually plays out in multiplayer, and well, yeah, it's OP. And that also does go the same for the Devil 16. Again, once that update hit where you get reset all the way to Gold League, I haven't really been in Legend League as much as I would have liked to, but now this time around, I really got to see what those higher end cars looked and felt like compared to something like my CC850. Now, I keep mentioning the CC850 not only because it is my best car, but even though I have a lot of other really good cars like the Jesko, the Tuatara, and the Chiron, I did feel like the CC850 was the only car that gave me a realistic chance compared to the Arish Imperium, which was by far the most common car I saw in Legend League. Now, that could be for a couple of reasons. Firstly, obviously, it's just the best car in the game, there's no question about it, but also because there are so few people in Legend League, it does seemed like if you're going to get there, you're going to be committed to playing the game. You're probably going to be one of those players who does have the Erish, but it does seem a little bit on the pay-to-win side in terms of once you get to that Legend League spot, you're only facing against players who have realistically put way more time and effort into the game and probably money compared to most people. So that was a little disappointing, I do have to say. With that being said, I am on track to hopefully unlock the Devil 16 within the near future from the Gauntlet. Hopefully I'll get that thing start up as quickly as I can, so maybe I'll have a competitor to that Erish in the near future. I really do hope so. Maybe they'll bring back the Absolute or the Imperium in another event soon, so you can get it outside of something like the Drive Syndicate, because I think so far for that car, the Imperium, it was the only way you could get it so far. So that was a little disappointing to see. It definitely felt like if you had that car, you had a massive advantage over everyone else. What I will say is that if that car was nerfed just in terms of the acceleration, I could see it being a very balanced car. I don't think a lot of people would complain too much if the acceleration was nerfed, because you'd still have that crazy top speed and handling and whatnot, but the acceleration would make it a little more competitive for other drivers in multiplayer. And lastly, I did want to bring up the conversation I've been starting to see a lot on the Discord server, in Asphalt, and of course just around the community, and that's now splitting the S-Class into S1 and S2. Now, I think this is a common thing in Forza games. I know that it was a thing back in Need for Speed world, but I think nowadays it seems like it could be a good idea for GameLoft to go that route, considering we now have cars that are going closer and closer to 350 miles per hour compared to the old S-Class cars like way back when with the Chiron, where 300 wasn't in the stretches of imagination. But now, of course, we're going well beyond that, and so I do think it's time to have that conversation about whether or not we should start splitting up the higher end parts of S-Class from the other normal S-Class cars. I could totally see cars like the original Jesko, not the Absolute, but also something like the Zenvo Aurora Tour being at the bottom end of that S2 rank, whereas the Chiron and some of the other cars are at the higher end of S1. So I think maybe that could give multiplayer a little bit more balance. Maybe you could start seeing some more fun and engaging S-Class gameplay in the higher tiers of Platinum League, and then finally once you get to Legend League, then you can maybe start exploring the Erishes, the Devils, that sort of thing, the Hennessy's. So I think maybe that conversation could be going on. I think it would be a good part to segment some of that upper end of S-Class, especially with those cars that I've been mentioning earlier that realistically have started to break the meta of the game. And it does kind of suck that at this point I have the best car I've ever had in the game with the CC850, and even still with a car over 5,000 rank, I felt like in some races there was simply nothing I could do. Now, of course, some of that is going to come down to the skill of the driver, I will totally admit that, but if I was going toe-to-toe with an Erish Imperium and we were both taking the same routes with the same nitro management, with the same floaty drift and the same different speed tricks, it just felt like there was really nothing I could do against the Erish. Now, with the collisions on, I could see that there was a little bit of a time where, because the roads are still a little bit narrow in this game compared to other games, I was bumping into people more than I would have. I was getting blocked more than I should have. So now that we have Ghost in multiplayer, hopefully I can get to Legend League and maybe test out my theory that maybe it's the collisions that are causing some of these problems, because you do start behind the Erish because it does have pretty good acceleration. But I will say collisions may be part of the problem, but I think the other part of the problem is just those crazy higher end S-Class cars that realistically you, me, we're not going to be able to get our hands on for the time being. Alrighty guys, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a long time coming to finally get back to Legend League and actually be tested against the top 1% of the Asphalt community. It was so fun to go toe-to-toe with some of the best drivers in the world, and hopefully you enjoyed some of the gameplay. That wasn't just me destroying some noobs in Gold League with an Apollo, because yeah, sometimes that can get old, I will say. But it was a fun, refreshing time to really push it to the limit in Legend League. Hopefully with the next time with Ghost, I'm going to be able to get back to Legend League. We'll see if I have the time, but it would be fun to really push it again in terms of no collisions, because I think that would be fun. But I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Let me know your thoughts about the current state of Legend League in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys later.